Oh, pretty good estimate, 27 pounds. Doesn't that look nice? Beautiful stuff. Okay. Now, that'll make it a bit over 30 pounds. Okay, so I think that's all we're going to get out this way. So what we're going to do is close this up now. And we're going to add water and more heat. Alright, now what we're going to do is bring the water level up to somewhere like this. So as a result of doing that, obviously the water was a bit cooler, so it started to cool down the wax and the slum gum, but already a lot of the slum gum is floated to the top. Now we want to melt out all of that wax, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to turn the temperature right up now. So instead of being about 160, I'm going to make it about 190. You can hear that heater getting going. And we'll close that up. And what's going to happen as a result of that, what's going to happen as a result of this is that we'll really get that wax fluid and the water very hot. It'll penetrate all that slum gum, and the wax and the slum gum will now be more easily separated. But it's going to take a good 5 or 6 hours. For that tank to heat up and for everything to heat right through. And then I'm going to use this messy screen. I'm going to put it down inside and push the slum gum from the surface, which is at about this level, down to the bottom. And what's going to happen with the slum gum being pressed down to the bottom is the wax will percolate up through the water and float at the top. And what we should be able to do, because my tap is down here, if you had a proper wax melter, you'd have a tap here where you could tap off the wax layer. But as I don't have that, I've just got the single outlet down here. What I'll do is, once the wax is floated right up to the top, I'll use a sieve just to get any slum gum that's floated up to the surface out. And then I will turn the tank off. That will allow everything to cool down, the wax will solidify, and I'll take a great big biscuit of wax. My guess it'll be half an inch, maybe even an inch thick of wax to come out of here. That'll probably be another 8 to 10 pounds. So we'll just let that heat up and we'll come back to it. $190 degrees or just over. It's pretty hot in the tank. Everything is melted. And what we have the tank is relatively full, about half full, a little less than half full, and I will now put, this is my own version of what it really needs, but scrapped together a few pieces of metal and screening, and I want to try and sink down it's hot. So the problem here is, at the moment the screen sits on top because there's a lot of buoyant material in there and this thing is just not heavy enough. What I really want is something to really weigh it down. And this should do very nicely. It's a fence post driver. It's going to get covered in wax, but if I put it in the right place, should be able to sink that down to the bottom. That works just right, actually. Kind of neat. Couldn't be a better height. It's heavy enough. Now it's sunk the screen down. There's a little bit of material up at the top. We'll get that out in due course. Not much of it. Most of the slum gum is down at the bottom, and also anything that I get stuck in the containers I can use next time anyway. Just tipped over, but it's going to hold down there anyway. Okay, we've got 99.9% of that crap out. Now what we're going to just do is keep the heat in as best we can. So what's happened now is that screen has pushed the majority of that slum gum right down to the bottom. Because it's very absorbent, it'll absorb quite a bit of wax. But because the wax is lighter than water, it's going to gradually percolate out of there. The heating from the tank will keep it hot, and that wax, as it will work its way through the slum gum and then float up to the top. And gradually we'll get a slightly deeper and deeper layer of wax up here. And when it's time, I'll turn the temperature off, let it cool down, the wax will solidify, and then we'll have a biscuit of wax floating on the top. So we'll just leave this in here to cook for a few more hours, maybe overnight, and then it'll be ready to turn off and cool down and take it out. So hopefully by this time tomorrow we'll be taking out the last bit of wax and cleaning out the tank, ready to do it again. So it's been running about 8 or 9 hours now at high temperature, with the slum gum pushed down to the bottom. So hopefully just about all the wax is floated up to the top now. So now the answer is simply to let it cool down. So temperature's going down and the plug is out. And to help things cool down, because this will take a long time to cool down, I'll just take the lid off as well. And overnight this will cool down. Let's have a look. I'll leave that. I'm not going to touch that, it's going to be way too hot. So that's just the weight holding the screen down, and I will just let that cool off, and in the morning that'll be roughly an inch thick clump of wax. It'll help me pull it out by, at least that'll give me something to hold on to pull it out. So otherwise I have to break it into pieces. So we shall see in the morning. So we're on the final day. It's now been, I think, this is the 8th day since we started. The melter was turned off last night. We are down now to just over 90 degrees. So things have cooled down significantly in here. And what we have now in the top is a block of wax, and it's stuck to this weight, which is handy, and around it is that liquid. So what I'm going to do is pull out the wax, and if it's cool enough and not too soft, it'll come out in one lump. course, this is where I get filthy. Let's say almost an inch thick of wax, and we will just knock that off in due course. And so the wax is recovered there. It'll fall over, and left below it now is the sort of rinsed off slumgum water. And so we will just collect this to clean out the tank. So this is just so because I haven't got a drain in the floor, so I'll load up the buckets with this dirty water, which if it hadn't been past the vegetable garden time would have been great on vegetables. Great fertilizer, I'm sure. So this water is the water that had been used to dilute what honey was left down there in the bottom, but also it was used as a medium to separate the slum from the wax, because by putting in a good foot deep or more of hot water, the wax would float up through that water and form on the top. And hence on the top here we've got a nice layer of nice wax. It's dirty underneath because some of the dirt was still in there, but clean enough on the top. This is going to be perfect wax for me to use for my coating of the honeycombs, of the foundation I want to recoat. So before I use my really crystal clean wax I've made, I'm going to use that dirty wax there, and I would say there's probably 7 or 8 pounds of wax there. So my screen has held that wax down. Sorry, not held the wax, held the slum gum down. And it's just going to take a bit of draining to get that water out. And then we'll be able to scoop out that slum gum, because it's going to be just like coffee grounds, basically, lumpy coffee grounds. Just to speed that process up, I'll also tip the melter a bit. That should do the trick. And so that's basically the process done. So while that's draining away, let's break off a few chunks of this wax. Now, of course, some of it's going to really be stuck to this. It's just the odd-shaped weight that I used. But let's see what happens. Or I just fall over. Broke it one bit off. There we go. Okay. That's the wax, we'll go and weigh that. Yeah, I'd say 8 pounds, maybe a bit more. Eight and a quarter. How's that for a digital eye? Okay, 8¼ pounds plus this, I think, was 31½. So we're talking about just shy of 40 pounds. 40 pounds of beeswax extracted. We had 3 gallons of burnt honey and 7 gallons of melter honey. So while that drains away, what I can do, just to show you what's going on here, I'll take this out. Oh good, it all came out as one block, look at that. And careful, I can take it out in one block. All stuck nicely together. Oh, it's falling over. Take this out right away before I drop it. So now just a tiny bit to clean up. Isn't that handy? Now I suspect that the slum gum stayed together as one unit because I didn't run the unit at 190 degrees for long enough. I did it for about 8 hours or so. Probably that means that some of the wax was still stuck in the slum gum, and when it cooled, it solidified as one lump. In hindsight now, what I should have done is keep it at 190 degrees for more like a day and a half. Really cook out the wax. As it is, I've probably wasted a pound or two of wax in that slum gum. And so right now it's all stuck together with it. But as you can see, I certainly recovered a lot of the wax from it. And overall, I would say I am very pleased with my results. We did end up with just shy of 40 pounds of wax. This wax I'll use to coat new foundation, or foundation that hadn't been fully drawn out. So I'll melt that down in units. And this wax I'll use for things like lip balms, hand creams, and I will sell some as well. And of course, I'm still in the process of extracting honey. I still have 100 supers to extract yet between here. There's 7 stacks of supers there. And in my kitchen, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit stacks, 5 stacks of supers here. So I've still got a busy week ahead. And as a result of that, of course, I'm already starting to accumulate more wax. So that's it. It's been busy making, rendering down the beeswax, but that's how I do it on a relatively large scale. In a few weeks' time, I'll do it again. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.